Duncan, thank you so much for having us over here. I appreciate you spending a Sunday afternoon looking in your garage of all the wonderful things that you have back here, and certainly the car. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to join the part of the vintage racing environment.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to meet you all. I look forward to meeting more members of VARAC and CVQ as we go forward. I'm Duncan Taylor. As you can tell from my accent, I'm a Brit, imported into Canada 20 years ago. Now proud Canadian, and I've been into MGs since around 2012, but it was really from 2018 when Jody Leclerc first got on the track, and we went to see him there, and there's some other things around my family coming into the Formula One Grand Prix that year, and we did some go-karting. My brother got into racing, and that was kind of like the spark of me wanting to get into racing. But it took some time. We were at the time when Jody was starting his racing career, we'd committed to move to BC. So it wasn't the right time at that point when you're moving your entire world over to the Vancouver area. So we did that, and then coming back 2 years later, the start of COVID was a project that I did where I got hold of a MGB GT V8 factory built. There's only, I think, 2 of them in Canada, and I bought that from a fine gentleman called Alan that I met when I was out there. And it's really so the flame continued to build on me wanting to go racing, because the club's got a rich heritage involved in vintage racing, and we've got former members that were part of the formation of the Circuit de Mont-Tremblant. And I did a video of that during COVID, which was really interesting to get those folks together talking. And that was the start of it, and it got to the start of last year when I was saying, okay, can I do this? And Dan de Cesar was at that point looking to sell his MGB GT race car, and I went and had a look at it, had a really good chat with him, but I just signed up for another golf membership, and I decided that I couldn't fit another hobby on top of my commitments to the Montreal MG Car Club and my commitments to golf, which I love playing. I just decided at that point that I couldn't add another to it. I just didn't have the time or the weekends. So it was during the year that I got to the end of the golf season, and I said, I need to do this. So I took a conscious decision at that point to cool down my golf a little bit, not do the golf membership, save a bit of money there, and then commit to racing. And I just happened to search on the racing.ca website, and I just searched for MG, and Bob Eagleson's car was there. It was the only MG on the site, and I just clicked on it, looked at it, and it's in Ottawa. I went, okay, if it's in Ottawa, it's 2 hours away. I can't not go and see it. So at that point, I committed to go and see it, and as it turns out, Jody already knew Bob anyway, so they were able to talk, and I met Bob a couple of times during the process of buying it. Super nice guy.
Fantastic. So you have, I see some of the decals have changed
Yep.
on it. Obviously the number is a little bit different. So
Yep.
tell me about the number 42, how that relates.
Sure. So first of all, I'm almost being apologetic to Bob, because Bob put a lot of effort into getting number 9 on the car. So he did give me a hard time when I said I wasn't going to continue with the 9, because I was passionate about getting 42 onto the car. So I'm looking forward to buying a beer to the VARAC member who's 42, because I know he has first dibs on the number. So I've yet to meet him yet, but it will probably have a 1 at either side of it when I'm racing for a VARAC event, and I'll buy that gentleman a beer. But for 42, it's special to me in 4 ways. First off, my brother is one of my inspirations to get me into racing. He lives in Melbourne, Australia. And he's got into racing the E30 BMW, mid-80s BMW 3 Series, and he's in a racing series there. And he got into that after 2018 as well, when we got together. And he's racing 39. 39 is my dad's birth year. 42 is my mum's.
Oh,
so it's an ode to my mum. The second one is one of the racers who sadly departed is Georges Boulanger. And he raced MGBs in the early 70s. His wife, Susan, is part of my race team now. And I asked Susan if it would be okay for me to race 42 and she was overjoyed for me to be racing 42 as a homage to the late George, so that's fantastic. Third is that I'm a massive science fiction fan. And being a science fiction fan and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when you have a supercomputer taking 10,000 years to find the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe and everything, it comes up with the answer 42, so that's been a bit of it. And the very last one is that I've got the dog that I had before Popeye that we have now. He was Sterling, and he was my first dog, Labrador, and 42 was his dog tag. So all those things just pointed me towards it being 42, and putting it on an octagon as well gives it a nice link to MG, the brand.
Right, looks great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So link to the brand, but I also see a Link Racing.
Yes,
over here. Tell me a bit about this.
Yeah, that's me joining Jody's race team. So if you look at Jody Leclerc's car, and his whole car is decaled and made to look like his dad's, is a homage to his dad's racing. But he formed Link Racing because people describe Jody as sounding and looking like Link Hogthrob from Pigs in Space, one of the Muppet characters. So when I joined his race team, Link Racing is the race team that I joined, and as part of that, the team had a good laugh putting it together to say that if you're joining the race team, you have to have a Muppet character. So I've been given the character name of Beaker. So you'll see that around the track.
Very nice.
We've got a couple of people wanting to get me a big wig with ginger hair sticking out the top of it. So if you see me doing that at one point around a race event, then that's them having a laugh at my expense.
That's tremendous.
Yep.
So we're in your shop. I see there's all kind of tools and things that you've acquired over time. You just mentioned that you had moved to BC, came back. Do you have a background in some of the maintenance or automotive work?
I haven't got a background in automotive. I've loved MGs for a long time, just over casual love, but got seriously into it 12 years ago. I bought a green 69 MGB Roadster and really just built up from there. 3 years ago, just after I moved back from BC, I was fortunate enough to meet up with an old gentleman in BC, a guy called Alan, who had 80% finished a factory MGB GT V8. And those were never brought into North America. They were only a UK car, about 2,600 of them made, 2 of them in Canada. I bought it from him. So that was my COVID project, to finish off that restoration and put it on the road. So a combination of my time with my green Roadster and the V8, that's kind of given me the rudimentary mechanical skills that I've got today, plus access to some good folks in the MG club that have got a lot more skills than I have, including some professional guys that know their way around the car.
Very nice. So you mentioned the MG Car Club as being an important fixture. For Montreal, it's very important. I think you have an in-depth involvement with them.
Yeah.
Tell me some of that.
Yeah, sure. I've been with the club since 2012. When I got my MG, and with me, when I get involved in an organisation where I've come across the great people, I want to get more involved. So I was the events director for a number of years, and I've now picked up the chair of the club. So I'm chairman of the club right now with folks like Susan and Bill and Arthur, who will be a part of my team. Proud to be involved in that club. It's a super club to be a part of. So if you're an MG owner, even outside of racing, and you want to be hanging out with like-minded folks, the Montreal MG Car Club has been a great source of inspiration for the love of the cars, but also, more importantly, great people.
So they do all kind of events outside of racing.
Oh, yeah.
They do like car drives and non-racing cars, actual street cars.
100%, yeah. So we've got as we count couples as 2 members. So we've got around 110 members now, and you just have to love MGs. So you don't necessarily have to have one, but most people will have an MG car. And it's mostly around linking up with events that are going on anyway, whether it's car show or drives or something like that. Or it's someone hosting a barbecue up at Morin Heights, and we'll do a drive up there. So driving the car, hanging out with the cars, doing some car shows. But now we had our club meeting, exec meeting last week, we're building in getting to races more as part of the club outing. So we should have a decent MG contingent at Tremblant.
So people coming up and helping and being part of the crew, that kind of thing. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even just the coming up and seeing the racing. We did it a few years ago when Jody first started racing. We made it a club outing to go up there and support his first race. So now with me getting into racing, there's a whole bunch of the club just want to come along and be a part of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I noticed, you have the other car that you were looking at was an MG GT, who Dan DeCesar's car, and this one is also one. Was that a particular choice, or was that just haphazard?
I'll call it luck of the draw. I wanted it to be an MGB. If I could make it happen, it would be an MGB, just because I like the car, and at the time when I bought this, I had 2 of them already. So I know my way around it. Whether it was going to be a Roadster or a GT, I really didn't mind. But the GT is cool. I'm happy with it. Yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting to see what the air circulation's like on a hot day at Tremblant or at Mosport, to see what that's like. So I'm making sure that my air conditioning is working.
Okay.
To get some air circulation in there. So we'll see. But yeah, I love the GT shape. So I'm happy.
Excellent. So you're looking at joining us for the Vintage Grand Prix this year. You have not had one event yet. You are going to take the course with the CVQ group, the Quebec group. Are you thinking about it? Have you had dreams, or are you anticipating what it could be like? Or
quite honestly, I'm frightened right now because it's all in front of me. I haven't got the history of racing that many others have. I've just done a little bit of go-karting with friends and things like that. So I'm excited about it. I'm nervous, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm putting all this commitment in. Have I got it? Have I got the guts to do it? I've got everyone around me saying, Duncan, once you commit to something, we know it. You're just all in. You'll get it done. But right now, because it's the period of anticipation in advance of it all happening, it's wow. This is going to be big. So. There's a saying that it gets used in golf, particularly in the UK. Right now I'm in the position of all the gear, no idea, because I've got the car, got my race suit done and things like that, and it's quite an investment to buy the stuff initially. Helmet, fireproof underwear, race boots, suit. So I'm in the process of pulling all that together, and in the end I'll have all the gear. But until I meet up with Paul Giroux and they go through the course, I've got no idea how to do it properly right now.
Right. So I see we have the race suit already ready.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Some of the things.
Yeah. So I'm hugely respectful of the folks that I've come across in the racing so far, because I'm proud of heritage of the club and heritage of the MG mark and stuff, but. Some of the racing guys have taken advantage of the heritage of racing. Use Jody as the example with his dad and his cars done up in the livery of his dad's car. John Nichols has got a Paul Wheatley car, and he's really proud of that. So I've seen evidence of that. So my history in racing, I'm really just going after homage to my racing heroes. So being new into racing, my homage is before I'm into racing, I'm a race fan. I love Formula One, and the suit itself is my version of Nigel Mansell's suit when he was a World Championship winner for Williams. So some of the patches came from my cousin Dan and Claire in the UK. They got me some of the UK patches that were sourced from there. Some of them are just generic, where I'm being respectful of the flags that make me who I am: Canadian, British, Yorkshire, Scottish, and embroider on Etsy, and I had the patches made up.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. But the only thing that's missing from it right now, I'm told, is you need to get it a little bit race worn and get some oil on it and things like that. So yeah, so Nigel Mansell's one of my inspirations. The second one is Damon Hill. So the race suit is quite similar to this one, because there's still a big Labatt sponsorship on Damon Hill's race suit. But as you see when you get round the car, one of the coolest pieces of advertising that I ever saw in Formula One was when Sega got involved in sponsoring the Williams team. and they did a cutaway of the race car showing Sonic the Hedgehog's legs with red boots, and so I've got that on the driver's side of the car there. So that's my little inspiration. So I've said to the race team today that our race, I'm going to be buying red race boots, and my whole team is going to have red shoes. So that's going to be part of the fun we'll have as a team.
Very nice. So, obviously Jody's been a very instrumental part of having you join the group and everything like that. But
Yep.
the F1 team was a 2-member team, right? So
100%.
What does that make? What does that make you guys?
Well, I know in Formula One there's a lot of competition between team members, because with the disparity you get in the cars, your biggest competitor is your teammate. I'm not like that. As I said, I'm stepping into this. I'm being nervous to get going and things like that. The fun that I've had with everyone that I've met, because I've been down to Lime Rock, I've been to Trondheim since I purchased the car. And with massive respect to Bob Eagleson, every time I've come across someone and either I drop it or Jody drops it about it's Bob Eagleson's old car, everyone says, "Oh, that's a really good car." And Phil Cooper has said, "That car was a pain in my arse." So it means that when I come in at the back of the pack and come in last, I've got no excuse other than me being a newbie.
So some of the events you've been to already in preparation of becoming a racer, you said you've been at Trombley obviously several times,
Yeah.
and you went down to visit some of the other MG events. Tell me a little bit about how that went last fall.
Went down to Lime Rock. That was Jody, Phil, a few others were racing down at Lime Rock, and I wanted to go down there because as well as it being a racing event, they were putting on. It was the 100th anniversary of MG, and they were putting a big focus on MG as part of the concours and gathering of the marks show on the Sunday. So I took my GT down, trailered it down there, and entered it into the show. Outside of the concours cars, I won best in show for MGs with my V8. So that was fantastic. Yeah. But at that point when we went down, I'd now committed to buying the car, so I was there to learn. So I was happy hanging out in the pits and understanding what happens in all around, getting the car ready, getting the driver ready, and that kind of thing. So I met the De César team, Dan's nephews, and Phil Cooper was there, Jody was there, and I was spending lots of time wandering around the pits, learning from other drivers and meeting them and having a chat. So yeah, lots to learn.
So one of the fun things that's very different from professional racing, the amateur racing, which you saw at the Lime Rock, is the ability for everybody to come together and help each other. When somebody doesn't understand or whatever has an issue.
Yeah.
You remember that with the Caesars helping Jody. And finally get to success on the final race. Yeah. That's really something that's tantamount to what we represent as a club. So.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that even now, because I'm only meeting these people for the first time, but that's a message that I'm getting really strongly, is that everyone wants everyone else to be on the track and their car working. Boxes of parts that came along with the car that Bob was including and stuff, and Jody's already looked through the inventory, but I know there's going to be times where someone will need something that I got in a box and vice versa, because quite frankly you never know what's going to go wrong and what you need to do to keep the car or get the car back on the track, so you really count on that. And from what I've felt so far, it's nothing but love, and people helping one another get on the track is just the kind of thing I want to be a part of. That's great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Let's. Do you mind if we take a look at the engine?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So here we are at the engine bay. Let's see some of the things that you'd like to show us about the engine of this wonderful car.
By all means. Well, my starting point once again is massive respect to Bob Eagleson, because what I essentially got when I bought this car was a complete race car, ready to go. Use the word turnkey and that kind of thing. So all I've been done is just essentially playing around. Most of the work I've been doing to get the race car ready has either been underneath in the form of an exhaust that we'll get to, or the interior. But from an engine point of view, as you can see, it's about ready to go. The engine is the standard 1.8 litre B-Series engine. It's got some racing parts in it because when Bob got the car, it came with a lot of receipts. So I'm looking at things like the lifters and things like that. Single Weber carburettor. Bob's even given me a choice of the different flukes to put on the front of it there. That's what Bob came in with, but I can really just for aesthetics change that a little bit. As I understand it from the contents, I've not spent a lot of time opening it up, but it's got a lightweight flywheel and some and a different cam in there. As you can see, it's got a racing radiator and things like that. Other things that are involved are it's got a Mallory distributor. It's got some extra pieces in here around management of the fuel pressure. It's also got a really nice mount here to reduce the vibration on the engine itself. So that's fantastic. And as you'll see when we get into the car, there was a number of things that Bob got me that came in a box. One of which was an AccuSump. So I've now fitted the AccuSump. I think Bob was at the stage of fine-tuning the car to make it as lightweight as possible and taking things out that weren't absolutely needed because he was shaving that 1/100th of a second off his lap time. I'm happy to be adding weight again because I'm a long way off.
Looks fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. The only thing I've got, the only thing that I'm really just finishing off here is we didn't have any kind of cooling fan on it. It wasn't deemed as wasn't needed, but I'm a little bit conservative, so I'm committing to putting the fan in. The fan came with the car. I've got a fellow MG Club member, Gianfranco, who's got a CNC machine, and he's putting together a frame that will enable me to really put this little cooling fan in place. I've got it wired already, so that's about all I'll be doing under here.
So Duncan, one of the things that I see, from you sitting in here, obviously you have different dimensions than what Bob had. Tell me some of the difficulties you had, or some of the work that was required in order to get you fitted into the car.
Sure, yeah. When I first got in here, haven't really sat in a race car before, I'm actually wondering what is the normal position. How should I be sat? So the seat that was in here was a lot further forward. And I think Bob himself was actually enjoying a seating position that was very forward, even for Bob. So when I get in here, I'm very, very cramped. But I didn't know it was wrong until Jody saw it for the first time and just basically said, "No, you've got to be comfortable. You've got to be further back." And then I sat in Jody's car, and it's far, far further back and much more comfortable than my experience here. So the biggest piece of work that's still outstanding is. First of all, the race seat had to come out. Bob had a much wider race seat, and as you push the race seat back, we're then a lot more cramped because of the frame that's around. So, new race seat. Part of the work that's not yet complete is the cross member that was there had to come out because it also had a bracket on it holding the back of the seat as it was. So yeah, the cross bracing is what's left to be done. Now that the seat is in, the brace has come out. We'll have to put a new bar that will come out the back of that and round the back because it has to host the shoulder straps as they go through there. So that's the biggest piece of work. The other pieces are really just things that are just general readiness. I was putting in the fan, the cooling fan, and as I tried to make room for it in the existing fuse box, the fuse box basically fell apart on me. So I've replaced the fuse box and put in a whole new 12-port box there. And then the last little bit was the AccuSump. Bob had removed the AccuSump because he decided that he needed to shave another 1/10 of a second off his lap time. So the AccuSump had come out and was in a box. But the holes were already there. The fitments into the engine were there as well. So I've just reconnected that, and that's ready to go. And just gives me that little bit more insurance on the health of the engine.
Very nice. Well, the interior looks fantastic. We're going to show what the dash looks like. There's a myriad of gauges that you're going to have here. You have a good understanding of each one because one of the things, of course, is to know what they're all doing.
Oh, yeah. So as part of the reworking of the fuse box, there was also quite a bit of wiring to tidy up as well. Bob had put some extra things in there and tactically wired up some stuff, but I wanted to put the switch for the cooling fan in, so that ended up going in a slot where there was still the old choke mechanism that was there. So that came out, the fan went in, the fan switch went in, but I ended up pulling it out and looking behind it, because I think it's good to have an understanding of your electrics, because if you have a problem at the track, then you need to be able to pinpoint it pretty quickly.
So one of the things we talked about before also is you worked a lot on the exhaust system, right, to get that all prepped up?
Yeah, that's a relatively big task because my two of my races this year are going to be at Tremblant, and Tremblant, with its noise restrictions in place, means that I need to be falling below that 92 decibel level. And as soon as my friends Jody, etc., saw and heard the car, it was automatic that it was too loud. So I've sourced a racing exhaust from Maniflow in the UK. I got one for Jody as well. It came back in luggage a couple of weeks ago when I came back from the UK. I had to explain it in the case to say, no, this isn't an unusual metal part. It's an exhaust silencer. So those are ready to go on, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to configure it. Jody's recommendation is you have an exhaust fit for Tremblant and then a noisier exhaust for your other tracks. Okay. So I think I'll be going that route.
It's a great way to make sure that you're prepared for the sound. You don't want to have any stress when you arrive at the track for something like that. So
exactly, yeah. It was Phil Cooper. It's the exec muffler that Phil Cooper's running. So as long as the rest of it's configured the same, I should have the same noise and acceptability at Tremblant.
So what are some of the things that you had to do in the front of the car?
Right, yeah, so there's a few. First of all, on the top here, this is a UK number plate. This is the number plate of the first car I ever owned. It was a Vauxhall Viva 1974, and it was my grandpa's. He gifted it to me when I first started driving, so that means something to me. A little bit lower down, I wanted to make the car a little bit more MG and add a little bit of period correct authenticity to it. So one of the things I got hold of the lenses. They do absolutely nothing right now, but it gives a little bit more of an authentic MGB look. I'm also just sentimental that I put the UKAA badge on the front of every MG that I've had, so I've done that. And then for my other MGBs, they've all come with driving lights. And I wasn't going to put driving lights on the front of the car, but Bob had actually got an air intake just behind here that's feeding some air back to the carburetors we saw earlier. So I put the little roundel there just to help with the air intake. That's a blank one at that side, but gives it a little bit of a, maybe this is a turbo look, even though it's not. The last bit is, as well as the logos, this Amico logo here, I mentioned Georges Belanger earlier as an inspiration of Susan's late husband. He had a big one of these across the front of his 42 MGB race car, so I wanted to pay a homage to that as well.
More work that I think you had to do with the cars, you had an idea of putting the original glass back. Is that right?
That's right. Bob had shaved some more tenths off his lap times by going with just a straight up plastic glass there where the original glass wasn't there. I wanted to add a bit more authenticity. I wanted it to, if I'm going to be last on the track, at least I'm going to look good doing it. So I've gone back to the original glass. I actually got the quarter windows from my MG club buddy Joe Spire, and when I cleaned them up, it turned out that they were better than my V8 quarter windows. So the ones I got from Joe are going to go into the V8. These came out of here, and are going to go into here. And as per kind of like racing stuff, I've got to get my name on there somewhere. So this represents my proudness from Yorkshire. This is a little ode to my third of my racing heroes, Colin McRae, the World Championship rally driver, who I adored. Sadly, he's now demised. And a little logo of my Muppet character, Beaker, right there.
So I want to thank you so much for having us here this afternoon to show not only the beautiful car, but all the enthusiasm you have for joining the vintage racing. But we're certainly looking forward to seeing you and the car on the track.
Yeah.
So welcome to the club.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Can't wait to be there. Can't wait to meet the rest of the racers at the tracks. It's going to be fantastic.